I'm Joshua, and today we're going to talk about art history. The world of art is pretty expansive and overwhelming, so I won't be able to cover everything, but I'll make sure you guys get the gist. We'll start a few years back, 17,000 actually, in a French cave, Lascaux. The cave's paintings serve as one of the first examples of drawn art that we have knowledge of. Here's a picture of the actual cave. In our next development in art history, ancient Egyptian art. Painting onto walls, the Egyptians used their signature style to depict both their contemporary society as well as stories from their mythology. Now on to Europe and the works of the Byzantine Empire. Utilizing mosaics, the Byzantines depicted scenes and figures of Christianity marked by their halos. Now we start cooking with gas, the medieval era of art. Artists start pushing towards more realistic looking art. However, the technology, or rather lack thereof, makes it a little difficult. Medieval art is actually never signed, as the focal point of the work is made to be the religious depiction, not the artist. All glory to God, as some would say. Much like the Byzantines, medieval artists essentially only create religious art. Again, note the cool little halos on saintly subjects. Here's where it really picks up, the transition from medieval to the Renaissance. One of the first changes with the Renaissance? Personal glory. That's the reason you might know these guys' names: Leonardo, Botticelli, Raphael, Michelangelo. Because they were painting to become legendary, to become famous, and Renaissance art gave them the opportunity. Now, when you actually look at the art, you can tell a lot of differences compared to medieval art. First, we're a lot more realistic. Oil painting and the technology that developed with that has allowed for much, much, much higher quality paintings. And when it comes to the actual structure of the art, you can see there's a huge focus on geometry, shapes, and a vanishing point, as illustrated by the targets. These properties create a much more realistic image and a much more aesthetically pleasing painting. And in terms of subject matter, we actually start to move kind of away from purely religious paintings with the Renaissance. There's a huge emergence of secular art, or art that is not focused on the church. And what's really interesting is the movement that actually comes after the Renaissance kind of runs counter to it. It's called Baroque. And as you can tell, it's very emotional. There's a little bit more focus on emotion over realism. Um, and actually, you see a return to religious subjects. There's a strong emphasis on religion, on Catholicism with the Baroque art movement. And then, as you can see in the example painting, Baroque artists really enjoy warmer colors, and they use those to a large extent. And then Baroque actually kind of slowly evolves into Rococo, which is the style of the painting shown. Rococo is very frilly, whimsical, and kind of light and airy, as opposed to the darker, warmer colors of Baroque. And then following Rococo, as a counter to the kind of like silliness and frilliness of it, we get the neoclassical movement, which emphasizes a return to Greek and Roman ideals and thought and art. And then you can see that uh, with architecture in the late 1700s, that it looks like they're kind of trying to mimic the old style of like the Parthenon and the Pantheon. And here are some paintings by Jacques-Louis David, the most prominent neoclassical painter. As you can see, the figures are very idealized and badass. Even the dude who's dying in a bathtub, I mean, he's like ripped. Like that man has some muscle to him. So there's a really huge focus on the ideal man and creating cool figures and stuff. Very cool art. And then as we get into the 1800s, now that we've essentially conquered realism, you start to see a movement away from that, as artists look to convey certain emotions stronger than a realistic painting could, and that's what Monet, Manet, and Van Gogh attempt to do with their paintings. Now, I mentioned those three because they're the most prominent impressionists. In Impressionism, there's two distinct periods: normal Impressionism or pre-Impressionism, and post-Impressionism. Van Gogh is a post-impressionist, and Monet and Manet are pre-impressionists. Now, on the left, there's a Monet, and on the right, there's a Van Gogh. And when you look at the paintings side by side, it's very clear that the Van Gogh is a lot stronger and more um, emotional. You can see the brush strokes are a lot stronger as Van Gogh takes the techniques and ideas of Impressionism and just puts them to another level of intensity. And now, on to the modern era of art. And as you can tell by these weird abstract drawings of the sun, it's gonna get a little interesting. There's quite a lot of variance and change and just creativity when it comes to modern art. Now, basically, when it comes to modern art, take all the rules and everything you've ever thought of about art and just throw it away. None of it matters anymore. It is just pure, unadulterated creativity and expression. And while some might say that's lame or that's stupid or it doesn't look good, it's the best part. It's the best part because when it comes down to it, it's up to you. Yeah, you. You can see these paintings however you want. Look in the mirror, look at yourself, and think about it. Think about these paintings. And whatever you come up with, whatever meaning you assign to them, it works. You're not wrong. That's what's so beautiful about art. All right. Hope you guys learned something. Hope you guys saw an interesting painting. That is all from me on Dubiously Drawn. See you next time.